With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Are you ready to turn your passion for spirits into a thriving business? Welcome to Regard Law Group, your trusted partner in Central Kentucky. Whether you're looking to set up a distillery, create a liquor brand, or open a bar or restaurant, we've got your back. From licensing to permits, we navigate the legal landscape so you can focus on what you do best. Plus, we handle corporate matters, business litigation, and even help you raise funds from investors. Don't go it alone. Call Regard Law Group today and let's make your vision a reality. Visit regardlawgroup.com for more information.
Limestone Farms bourbons are like a secret portal to a world of rich flavors where high proof meets smooth satisfaction. Every barrel is meticulously crafted and blended with a specific message in mind. Experience clean delineated flavor profiles that will have you engaged from the first sip to the final drop, making your palate beg for just one more taste. Limestone Farms, bringing heritage home.
Bourbon Life listeners, it's time we all get a little toasted. With Penelope Bourbon's Toasted series, of course. This unique blend is a testament to the power of experimentation. After full maturation in a charred New American oak barrel, their bourbon is finished in a secondhand, freshly toasted barrel to create a delicious variety of chars and toasts with deep vanilla and caramel notes. No matter your preference, there's a toasted blend for you. Start your one-of-a-kind experience at penelopebourbon.com.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios, otherwise known as my basement, it is my good friend and co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there, man?
Oh, Mark, I'm great. It's good not to be forgotten.
Oh, Matt, yeah, you're not forgotten. You'll never be forgotten, man. You're my friend and co-host, always.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mark.
You doing all right, man?
I am doing well. And yourself?
Yeah, doing great, man. This is going to be a fun show. I always look forward to this. A third-time guest, and just always have a great time with this guy, man. So really looking forward to that. Been looking forward to doing this one. So it's going to be a great show. Drinking some great whiskey tonight. So it's going to be a really good time. We are, of course, the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support, the support of all of our sponsors. We couldn't bring this show to you guys every week without all of our sponsors. So thank you to them. Mm-hmm. Matt, with that said, man, let's just jump in and tell everybody who we have with us tonight.
Absolutely. Joining us this evening, joining you all this morning, this night, this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whenever it is you're getting
Matt's been drinking at work today, folks.
It's been too much time in the heat. I think that's what it is. Whenever it is you're getting your Bourbon Life Podcast, he was the star of episodes 178 and then 100 episodes before that, episode 78.
That's right.
And we have him back here for episode number...
Man, 235 maybe? 236?
235 or 236, maybe.
Yeah, but at least it wasn't another 100.
That's right.
You know, I mean, we've beaten that record, right?
That's right. The more frequent, the better. We're always glad to have him back with us. He is the president of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Randy Prossi. Welcome on back to the show.
How are you?
Doing great, man.
I have to note, though, this is my third time. Saturday Night Live, I think, gives jackets to third host. There's a whole show of all the multi-hosts.
We've had this conversation before.
Of the green jacket.
People want green jackets. So I think I'm going to have to get like a green fleece because I'm a fleece guy. I always wear a fleece.
Same.
So I think I'm going to get like a green fleece made with our logo on it and start giving it out to three-time guests just for something special. But for now,
well, thanks for having me.
You get to hang out with us, Randy.
Yeah. And you know what? Thinking about that, I mean, when we first got together, there was so much that I was still talking about what we were going to do with the Bourbon Festival.
Right.
Now I get a chance to come back and say, well, we've done most of that, but there's still more cool stuff to happen.
Yeah,
so,
man. I mean,
it's so fun.
The first time it was July of 21 when you're on here. So three years ago. And then the second year, I think we ended up with Steve on the show. Was Steve? No, Dave Mandel, right? I think Dave came over and did the Urban Festival show.
Yeah.
And then last year you joined us again. Of course, we've always done it remotely, so this is the first time.
No.
Welcome to the beautiful Bourbon Life studios, man.
And you know what the backstory was to get me here today. There was a lot of potential hurdles, and I off again, on again. I got these samples. I mean, this is an in-person show. So
yeah, man.
And I was so excited to be here. This is a big one for us. So thanks for allowing us to come in and talk.
We're always happy to have you guys on.
Well, no green jacket, but you'll get the consolation prize.
I got the bourbon shirt.
Of hanging out with Mark and I.
That's right, man.
Yeah,
got the
that's
haircut
right.
today. You got everything going on, man.
Yeah.
Looking good there, Randy. Well, I just saw you last week or week before? We did a barrel pick for the Bourbon Festival. We'll talk about that here in a little bit
fun one
as well. Yeah, that was a good time. Anytime you get to hang out with Danny Kahn, it's a great time for sure. So
funny story on that one. We had done the first one, and this is back when Justin's House of Bourbon was still our sponsor. We were just getting the single barrel program off, and 1792 I think was the second or third pick that I've ever done that we did for the festival. We did a Buffalo Trace and a Blanton's on one day, and then I think we went to, but it was January, so we're down there at Barton's, and it was 18 degrees out in that Rick House, and it was colder than the outside air. Yeah. So we had to take the bottles and everything up into the gift shop when it was still in existence before they changed that, to let it warm up for half an hour just so we could get something. And then we did that, and Danny wasn't there, and found out that he wasn't there, and there was wrath of Danny. I wanted to be on this Bourbon Festival pick. So we made sure that he got the invite, there. And he came down literally for the day.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm toast the rest of the day. I just wanted to come down here, be a part of it. So
yeah, nice.
And I never take that lightly. We do 4 roses. Brent is always clear the calendar. Connor is always on the Elijah Craig stuff that we do. Fred and Freddie. It's very humbling that these guys don't do a lot of barrel picks anymore. They're isolated. They're off into innovative things. And when they see our name come across, they want to be a part of that pick. And that's part of our backstory for the pick. We've got the master distiller sitting there with us. Yep. And in the case of 1792, I mean, we had both. We had Ross
Cornelison, the new master distiller there, right?
Yeah. So, we did Angel's Envy, and Owen came in and sat down and talked to us. And
Owen Wilson.
I wasn't going to go there. But and they talked about a couple of the new products that they were launching, and they let us sample. So it's not just the stuff that we know is going to be in the bottle for our guests to buy at the festival, but that we also get that little sneak peek on the bottle and bond, some of the things that they had announced at. And so to say that this is a fun gig is an understatement, even though it's a lot of long days that people don't see what goes into it.
Sure.
But the fun, I mean, I can't complain.
Yeah.
I post stuff on Facebook, and dude, you've got the best job. I'm like, well, there's an hour there that was really cool. The other 8 hours or whatever.
The other 14, the other 14 kind of suck. But I just think it's cool. I mean, I think it's a huge testament to what you and your team have done. And, we could talk more about how it's grown and developed, but what you guys have done over the last 5 years with this festival, that these guys are buying in like they are, and gals. I mean, that these distilleries and these top people at the distilleries they're buying in. They've bought into the Kentucky Bourbon Festival because, in my mind, it's the premier bourbon festival in the world.
Well,
so
you always embarrass me when you say that. The first time I heard you say that, I mean, it's very humbling. I get goosebumps. I really do, because the distilleries, I went to them in 2020 with a concept. COVID shut us down, but I said, this is what I want to do. The distilleries, the whiskey, and the people who make it are always going to be the focal point. I've used that analogy from Churchill Downs and the Derby. That all the ticket sales and that fun hats and all the pomp and pageantry and the sponsorships and NBC, if you don't have 20 horses in the starting gate, you don't have the Derby. And in my case, our horses are the distilleries, and we never lose focus of that. And they have now realized that. We started off with 9 distilleries in 2019.
Wow.
Coming out of COVID, 2021, we had 34 on the lawn, and 17 of them, literally half, were craft, which had never been included. And now this year we've grown it to where we have 63 distilleries.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they've all renewed. And the real humbling thing, this is 33 or 34 years that I've been involved in a festival, an event of something with sponsors. And never in my life have I had distilleries and corporate sponsors reach out to me to remind me that it's time to renew their contract. I mean, that is rarefied air.
Man,
and when I have distilleries that are like, well, we want to up our footprint. We want to invest more in our presentation. I won't say who, but I've got 2 of them that actually have a Randy clause in the contract that says if I leave, they've reserved the right to renegotiate. And you talk about humbling.
Yeah, man.
But we just, my name is in it, so I take it very personally. But we have a team that share the vision, and it's taken us a few years to get to where kind of all the, Coombs and I were on day one. We clicked,
right, yeah.
And we just kind of built it. There's so many things that people are like, Randy, no. Steve Coombs brought in a lot of what we need to do, and I did it.
Yep.
And then obviously the Kentucky laws have changed. So it wasn't Randy with a Superman cape. It was the KDA and the legislature and all the industry folks that pushed it so we can do what we do now. And so it's all come together. So I guess I can exploit the law. I mean, you're a lawyer. I exploit the law very well and use it to our advantage. But if any one of those little pieces hadn't happened in the timing, then we wouldn't be sitting here tonight talking about the success that this year's event is going to be, because all I have to do now is execute, right? The pieces are there.
To me, I mean, that's a sign of a great leader, is somebody that, acknowledges his team and, gives the kudos to them, which you do all the time, which is great. So, well, guys, let's talk about what we're drinking, because you brought some special treats for us this evening, Randy. So the first one we got poured up here, you guys do barrel picks for the festival. Yeah. And how many have you done this? Do you know how many you've done?
The crazy thing is, I said to Steve, going back to Coombs, I said, I've heard this thing called barrel picks, and I see, Westport Whiskey and Wine have these store. I said, can we do that? He's like, yeah. So I started asking distilleries. We had 10 the first year. Bill and Rob Samuels were the very first single barrel that we did for this new program, and they donated it and said, go for it. We love what you're doing. And I think we did 45 just this year.
Holy
so I think I'm at 20, 35, 80 barrel picks that we've done in 3 years.
Wow. That's crazy.
Not bad for a guy who didn't even know what it was a couple of years ago. But the cool thing about the law is that we used to do the barrel pick, but a retailer had to commit to buying the barrel and the bottles and selling it. Well, now with the law change, the distilleries are selling it directly to the customer at the festival. So you'll have 38 distilleries. A couple of them did 2 picks for us. We couldn't decide between 2, so they said, we'll bottle them both. So when we talk about the Bourbon Festival, being able to people to come and experience and buy things you can't get anywhere else in the world, these single barrels are the thing that checks that box. And so you'll have 45 different expressions, if you will, to choose from this year alone. And you might be talking to, Danny or Brent or Fred or Freddie, and they stand there and sign the bottles. It's actually very cool. So we're holding like literally the lab bottles with magic marker on the glass, because these are what we thieve and take home after we pick the barrel. And I've not had any of this year. So what we're doing tonight is the first round of because I was thinking I was bringing some of last year's, and Stacy's like, I got you. So you're the first ones to sips the lips on what we selected from a few of these.
Well, thank you, Stacy Pritchard out there for making that happen. So this is the Maker's Mark, and now this one right now is at 103, which I'm assuming they'll proof this down to the normal. What is it? It's a private select. So what is that? 94. Yeah, I was looking. I know I got a bottle there somewhere, but I can't see the.
But we've done some barrels. We've done some cast strength, barrel strength stuff with them in the past.
Have you? Okay.
I think this is. Yeah, I think it gets proof down.
Matt, what do you pick up on this one on the nose, man?
Good and fruity. There's a lot of like red fruit, berries. I almost pick up like a sweet grape note.
Yeah.
As it keeps getting sweeter.
Grape skin. Almost like
I like getting like sherbet notes, like sweet ice cream or sherbet, like a sorbet on it as well. But then as it opens more, there's some of the age, some of the oak is coming through. There's like a little bit of toffee, almost like a burnt English toffee kind of note, like a touch of mocha or coffee oak coming through with it as well.
And I wish I knew. I mean, obviously this is the stave profile. It's a 13231. So
the old 13231.
3 is the French, the Couvray, right?
See, I can't remember I don't know the order.
And I should have the thing pulled up in front of me here, like our tasting mat with all those. But
now I get it.
But it's five.
Whoever wrote on this called it the palindrome. I'm like, palindrome, and I get it 13231.
Yeah, now that's the name that'll be on the label.
That's awesome. That's great. But yeah, Matt, I agree on the nose on this one. That the fruity, and a lot of times with Maker's Mark, I get that almost like a strawberry. Talk about red fruits, but I do get some of that grape that you're talking about. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when I was a kid. My granny used to make grape Kool-Aid. I don't know why, but there's a sweetness to this with that hint of grape, and it just reminds me of that grape Kool-Aid from when I was a kid. But then
Did you stir it with your hand?
Stir it with my hand. Just get down.
Can I help you?
Yeah,
please?
There you go. Down in the mountains, nobody cared, man. You just get a stick or something, and stir it, right? So nobody cared. But yeah, I mean, again, you talked about other notes that come through, Matt. A little bit of that oak, that sweetness, the kind of like maybe like a brulee sugar as well that comes through. A lot of nice notes on this one. Randy, anything stand out to you?
And I try to. I love like when you pick up the dark chocolate and the caramel and the toffee, and so. And I'm not afraid to admit that when someone mentions, you're rattling off stuff like, yep, it's there. I'm very much a power of suggestion kind of guy. If you made me go first, I'd be like,
I'm the same way. That's why I love that. Matt always goes first, if you notice.
I love that. And I get a little bit of apple, but not like, maybe that's the red fruit that I'm just misplacing. But
no, that makes sense.
But the grape and it's like the grape skin, like when
yeah. So Randy,
it's awesome.
And we've had you on twice, but it's always fun just to kind of jump back a little bit, talk about you a little bit, your background, your history. So people that are joining for the first time that haven't heard the previous episodes, can you kind of give us the Cliff Notes version of Randy Prosse?
Well, I was born on a. How far back do you? No, actually, I grew up on a 7th generation family dairy farm. So I mean that comes into my work ethic that I need to do the job.
There you go.
I used to tell my dad I want to work half days, and he's like, "Well, kid, you just got to figure out which 12 hours you want to work," and that's the farmer's life right there. You're talking about bourbon life. That's the farmer's life.
Oh man.
But no, I started doing festivals in 1988 as a volunteer. Got involved with the local town Founders Day festival, and was a music guy, so I was like
Now, where are you from? You're from
Freeport, Illinois.
Okay.
So it's right on if Illinois-Wisconsin border. There's Monroe, Wisconsin.
I was going to say, I thought it was kind of up north.
Yeah.
So.
And then I spent most of my adult life in Racine and Milwaukee, over in that area.
Right.
But so I started off as a volunteer, never thinking it was going to be any kind of a career, and bounced around. And I always sniffed out that festival. I moved to Racine for a tourism job, and I went through the list of the 14 festivals that were happening. I'm like, which one's the coolest festival? And it was the Music Fest. And I called the founder up on the phone, and I said, hey, I've been working on festivals for years. I want to volunteer. He invited me to a board meeting, and the very next year I was chairman of the event. Like fresh meat, right? They're just throwing me in there. Yeah. But it's very much a part of me, and I always see what a good event does to a community. When that music festival went away for a number of reasons, you could see that there was a void in that community. And so they're trying to revive that festival. But I really do believe that a festival, doesn't matter what kind of festival, any festival is a place where people, they gather, they celebrate what, the history of their town, they celebrate their friendships and social. So, I mean, I'm always mindful of that. And I used to run the Wisconsin State Fair in Milwaukee, and I was standing there one day, sunny, 90 degrees, watching this band play, and there were two guys that were lunar opposites of the world, and I didn't realize who it was at first, but there was an older gentleman, cut off short flip-flops, drinking a beer, and it was Willie G. Davidson from Harley Davidson, like the grandson.
Yeah.
He's sitting out there to listen to this music, multimillionaire, and the kid next to him was some probably college kids that didn't even know how he's going to pay his rent next. He's getting eating ramen noodles. But here these two people were enjoying the same music, the same environment, and just kind of bringing it all together. So those little weird things kind of stick with me as we go through. And Bardstown and the area is no different. We celebrate the bourbon industry there, and we celebrate all the generations of people that have worked in those warehouses and on the production lines. And we hope we do a good job showcasing bourbon that they, in a way they can be proud. So
yeah, well,
we are.
Like I said, I mean, I think you're doing a great job with it. And now you were working with the Derby. You were working on the Kentucky Derby, and they kind of lured you away to. Well,
I mean, I was operations director for a number of years at Derby, and I mean, it was a lot of fun. I still go back on Oaks and Derby, so I've got the lifetime
nice.
pass to go back and hang out, and I would be a fool to blow those credentials. But it was a lot of work, and it was amazing to see what people's reaction were. And then you realize that there's 20 million people sitting at home around the world watching this. I mean, it's a whole different level of pressure on us to. If something doesn't look right at a normal festival, 10,000 people see it. If you screw up Derby, it's 20 million people.
Yeah.
But no, and I'm still very close with those guys. But it was kind of like they're reorging, and they've kind of grown. And there's a little bit of, I kind of saw the handwriting on the wall. My boss, who I'm still dear friends with, I was hired to replace him. Well, he's still there, and his dad was there 71 derbies.
Oh, wow.
And he's on his 32nd derby or 33rd derby, so he's not going anywhere. So I'm like looking at my
right.
But this came out, when this opportunity popped up, it spoke to me. I used to do craft beer festivals.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I saw this, and I knew they were struggling. And I met with the board, and they said, "This is where we are. We have a vote and it's a split board. We can either file bankruptcy, or we can take the funds we have and give it a run." The distilleries were pulling out left and right. I used to say that probably Beam and Heaven Hill might have been the last two in there, just because it's there, right? It's home,
right?
Yeah.
But it was clear, and the distilleries had been telling us for years that we were missing the mark. We were no longer aligning with their brands.
Sure.
The consumer got very sophisticated. They got very and then here's the Bourbon Festival's kind of lagging along, being a little community festival. And I don't mean, anytime I talk about the old festival, I'm always doing it with all due respect, because as a volunteer, that festival was put on the backs of the community for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it lived on for that long. So they just didn't know how to pivot and kind of deliver the product. When this thing started, you couldn't give away bourbon.
Right, 30 years ago.
Yeah, Fred and
cared, right?
Jimmy and Fred, they talk about those things, and they really kind of reinvented the wheel. And Bill Samuels was out there, but we weren't taking advantage of the renaissance that had been, and so they told us what we needed to be. So the roadmap was there, and I talked to the board, and I said, "Okay, let's go for it." I was all excited in January 2020, and then March 2020.
And then Governor Indy says, "Guess what? I'm shutting your whole state down."
and we had such a cool lineup for all the educational things that Steve does.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting in August with a couple of distilleries and a couple of publications where it's like, this is irresponsible for us to try to put an event on, given what the reality is. So Steve and I met over a table like this and said, how hard would it be to basically do what we're doing right now? Do a virtual event. Everybody's doing it. Most are doing it poorly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of content about bourbon out on the internet in 2020, but a lot of it wasn't good. So we said, if we do this, we've got to do it in a manner that shows the distilleries how committed we are to the quality of production that we're going to be doing in a year or two. So when distilleries were coming in, we went ahead. We had all the master distillers. They weren't going anywhere. We had a captive audience.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Bardstown Bourbon Company, always thankful to them. They shut down and they let us come in on like Mondays and Tuesdays when everything was a ghost town, and we used the Rick House, we used Pete's Place, we used the different couches with the glass with the still and the doubler and everything. And we put this series together in a matter of a couple of weeks, and we got it to air in October. But these master distillers would come in. Every one of them were like, wow. I mean, because they had mics and boom mics and lighting and polished up. Yeah, it was not Randy with his cell phone going, here I am with Conor O'Driscoll.
It wasn't the Bourbon Life with their
I did not say that.
Their digital wireless cameras pointing at you, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm surprised by how many times that I've heard, like from the marketing people and now board members of ours, that have come back and said that word spread through the department that you guys did. It was an amazing job. And then they saw the final. So each of those distilleries, sight unseen, gave us cash for each of their segments. So it was a pay to play. If Heaven Hill, Connor was in one or two, and Mike Sane, rest in peace, was on one about the barrel aging, there was a flat dollar amount per episode that if your personality appears 2 or 3 times, this is how much it is to get it up off the ground. And they all did it.
Wow.
Never
That's
balked.
Awesome.
And so that was kind of our launching pad of being able to showcase the quality that we're going to be able to do. And that just, so there is no silver lining. I mean, the COVID thing, that's horrible.
Sure.
Horrible for everybody.
Sure.
Everybody, festivals and events. But it gave us the opportunity to kind of a little buffer year.
Right.
So we can come back with a new program. And So if there was any good that came out of it, I'm not going to say a silver lining, but there was a positive. And then when we hit with 2021, I used to joke people would come out to see the three of us sit out in the yard with the orange Home Depot bucket and drum on it. Live music, come out to the, so I mean the pressure was off, but we had a lot of people, a lot of new people that had come. And you followed social media. I was public enemy #1 for a while out there.
I'll tell you what. Let's jump to the whiskey.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go into that a little bit more in round 2, if that's good.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're good with that, because I kind of want to. I mean, it's been a few years, but I still think it's important to kind of address that. So
yeah. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah.
Make me your pinata. I've been there.
So let's talk about the palate and finish on this one, Matt, and we'll wrap up round 1. What do you think?
The palate on this is interesting because on the nose, I got a lot of the sweet notes, a lot of the sweet fruits, and the richer, sweeter side with that little bit of toffee.
Yeah.
In the end of the nose. But the palate to me drinks much more of the toffee, like older kind of whiskey notes, like those butterscotch, caramel, the barrel influence, almost like cocoa nib, and like a subtle, like powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar sweetness toward the end. But it drinks a lot more savory, a lot like more robust than I think the nose would let off.
Yeah, and to me, I get a little bit of like spiciness on the palate as well, which I think when you nose it, you're thinking, oh, it's sweet, and you're going to taste it, and you're going to get all the sweetness. And yeah, there's a little bit there, but there's also this. And again, with Maker's Mark, sometimes when I drink it, if I didn't know better, I'd swear it was a rye whiskey, or at least a high rye whiskey. And that's been an ongoing controversy for me as a master of bourbon for quite a while. But that impact, and of course it's 103 proof, so yeah, you're going to get a little bit of that proof impact as well on your palate. But yeah, I agree, Matt. It's different than what you get on the nose, completely.
Yeah, and that cocoa, that was one thing that I remember that we talked about when we finally got it dialed in with our combinations on this. But that cocoa, and I remember saying it's like almost a dry semi-sweet cocoa.
Right.
So there's a drying. Yeah. It's not completely a departure from the nose, but there's like my tongue, it dries out, and I don't know if that's and then the spiciness, or you get into the higher proof things, you can almost feel your spit evaporating. But that's not quite that strong. But
this one has a little bit of the cloying effect, right, where you get that little bit of dryness to it. So I agree with that for sure. But yeah, I really like this, and very good. I always like these Maker's Mark picks. Just you never know with the combination of staves, it's really cool what they can get.
And I've always said, like Maker's Mark, when I was growing up, there was a whiskey shelf in your liquor store that was this wide. And whiskey, everything was whiskey. It was like Canadian Club. I mean, you had Jack Daniels, you had Southern Comfort, and you had Makers and Beam, of course, were in there, and Wild Turkey. So when I came here, I wasn't all that impressed with Maker's Mark. It was in my mind this pedestrian. And then I got to know Rob and Bill and got to know the family and Thomas Bolton. And then Denny and Jane popped in. And it's like all of a sudden I go, you really can fall in love with the product by the people who are making it.
Sure.
And that Maker's 46 is kind of always the baseline that I think of when I'm doing like what I am right now. I'm trying to compare it to that. And that baseline, but it isn't that. But
it's really good. Mm-hmm. I agree. Guys, let's take a quick break. Get a word from our sponsors. We'll come back with more with Randy Prosty with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in just a minute.
Visit the historic James E. Pepper Distillery, located in the vibrant Distillery District in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Initially built in 1880 by Colonel James E. Pepper, one of the founding fathers of the bourbon industry, it operated until 1967 when it was shut down and abandoned for over 50 years. After a decade of historical research, the brand was relaunched and the distillery was rebuilt. Distilling resumed on-site in 2017, using the same historic bourbon recipe as when it closed in 1967. The distillery offers a selection of fine whiskeys for tasting and retail purchases, including the award-winning Decanter Bourbon. Intimate guided tours include time in the museum, an up-close look at the grain-to-glass process, and a complimentary tasting. Stop by for an old-fashioned cocktail and see why TripAdvisor ranks the Pepper Distillery as the third best distillery in Kentucky and the #1 attraction in Lexington. Learn more at jamesepepper.com.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, The Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the second round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, otherwise known as my basement, it is my good friend and co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there, man?
Oh, Mark, I'm doing great. Good to be live, right?
It is. Good to have my co-host here with me too, man.
I'm just your bourbon drinking buddy.
My bourbon drinking, no beanie, nothing tonight, man. But unless you're wearing pants, that's good.
No pants on tonight, no beanie.
Okay.
It's about 9 million degrees outside.
No beanie either, yeah.
I'm surprised I have anything on.
Oh, man. Well, with that said, I should probably tell everybody we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support and the support of all of our sponsors. We couldn't bring you this show every week without all of them. With that said, Matt, why don't you tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. Randy Prossi is the president of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We've had him on twice, and this is third time making a charm. We're so happy to have him back. Randy, welcome on.
Thanks for having me.
The Green Fleece, man. Next time, Green Fleece. We owe you.
No, thanks for having me. It's amazing how time flies.
Right.
Crazy.
And you guys have grown, and so cheers. Congratulations.
Thank you, Randy.
on that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Taking the world by storm. So
well, thank you very much, man. We definitely appreciate that. And you guys have as well. I mean, I'm going to stand by that. I think you guys are the best bourbon festival out there. You've taken something that, we kind of talked about that a little bit before. I think, kind of in the minds of most people, it's almost more like a county fair. And again, not to take away from the people that put it on and what the work that they did, because they did it for 30 years.
That's right.
Now you guys, this is the 33rd year. Is that right? I'm looking at my notes.
It is. And I always say that, and I mean no disrespect to county fairs. And I'm a farm kid. I grew up sleeping on hay bales at the county fair with my cows.
Yeah.
And so you won't find a bigger corn dog fan than me. And just to clarify, going back to, I do have my pants on here. So just if anybody's wondering.
We've not reached that point yet, right?
Not yet.
Third round.
But it is something that it was just time. It was time for the festival to grow up, and I look at it as like a kid. I've raised kids. My oldest is in her mid 30s. When they're a baby, they're trying to figure out who they're going to be, and then when they're in their teens, you're trying to figure out who they shouldn't be, and then when they're in their 20s, they better have an idea of who they want to be. By the time they're in their 30s, they better be there. And that's exactly, if you look at the timeline and the history of this festival, it was that. It was a lot of, we should do this, we should do everything. I mean, there were car shows and balloon glows and pancake breakfasts and golf tournaments and a lot of stuff that didn't have anything to do with bourbon. But the industry hadn't gelled yet. So, raising this festival is a lot like raising a kid. If anybody at home has anybody that's 33 years old or 34, almost in their life, that's what I'm a parent.
I think it's a great analogy, man. Let's talk about this whiskey real quick. We'll come back to that conversation because we got some stuff to unpack there. Matt, you got the bottle because the print was so small nobody else could read it. Why don't you just tell everybody what we got?
That's right. These young eyes will go ahead and read it for us all. This is a Hemingway Rye Whiskey Signature Edition. And this is a private barrel of straight rye whiskey, 6-year Indiana, 4-year Kentucky blend is what it's looking like. And this does have a finish on it. It is rum-seasoned Oloroso sherry casks, coming in at 110.2 proof.
Nice. So I'm wondering what rum-seasoned, I'm assuming that means they took an Oloroso sherry cask probably and rinsed it with a little bit of rum and then drained that out and then put the rum or the rye in there. But it's a combination. You said it's Indiana, 6-year Indiana.
6-year Indiana, 4-year Kentucky.
So I'm assuming MGP. And this is also, I'm assuming Green River distillate, probably rye.
Probably be a safe guess.
Safe guess since it's Jacob Call and his dad. So, yeah, very nice. What do you pick up, Matt, on the nose on this one, man?
It's got like that nice big minty herbal nose that I really love in a rye. It almost has like this sweet minty cream, almost like a mint ice cream or like mint buttercream frosting type note. There's a little bit of peppercorn, some other herbs, almost like a little dill or parsley or like lemon balm underneath all of it too. Then like a nice little bit of oak kind of rounding it out, almost like a touch of that bubble gum that sometimes you pick up. Mark. I think I might be getting a little of that on the nose. Just really nice, like a really thick nose on this one.
Yeah, I like it. I like that spiciness on this one, man. Those herbs really jump out. Like you said, the mint comes through. But yeah, that bubblegum, the Topps baseball pack, that pink bubblegum stick, I definitely get that sweetness. And I love that combination of that spiciness, the mintiness, a little bit of spiciness. Talking about peppercorn, but then also that sweetness from that, kind of like cornstarch kind of sweetness or whatever from that bubble gum. Really like that. Randy, anything jump out to you on this?
You mentioned oak, and I'm always in search of like oak, leather, and tobacco. That's I'm trying to find that on my own, right? And usually when I pick up the oak, it's usually a bad thing. It's like it's too much.
Too much.
And so I'm looking for that, and I can now pick that up on this, but I just the mint is under there, but it's subtle for me.
Yeah,
it's a big nose. The first time I put it up, it was like, wow, it's a lot of stuff.
What was the proof on this one, Matt? I forgot the
110.2.
110. So we've jumped up a little bit here. Very nice.
And then you put that layer of that finish in there, and that just kind of makes you guess. Well,
yeah, that's. I'm curious to see because I've been sipping on it, so I'm curious. Once we get to that point, I'm curious to see what you guys think in terms of the impact of that rum. What is it called? Rum
dosed, rum seasoned Oloroso
rum
sherry.
Seasoned. I couldn't think of the word. Rum seasoned Oloroso sherry. Yeah. So curious to see how that works. So Randy, jumping back to the festival, obviously, you guys came in, you hit COVID. Yes, I mean, it kind of set everybody back, set us up back because we started in 2020, first month, and it was like, boom, shut down. But we pivoted, and we got to do things online, and we had a bunch of people jumping in because they didn't have anything else to do.
That's right. Audience building.
It really was, man. So I hate to say it was a blessing, but there were positive points to it for us as a podcast, which I understand. But you guys came in and you guys faced some backlash from the local community, but you handled it well. And I think you've really proven the point over the last 3 years.
And thank you. But I look at it as, again, back to COVID, that virtual year, people sitting at home, having nothing to do, and they're searching, and they found us. So our audience, we were a free event, and it was a family event until 2021. It was bounce houses, face painting, all that, but no actual bourbon, which was kind of unfortunate. So when we changed it, we went to a 21 plus event because we had these commitments from these distilleries to be there, and in effect, we had each one of them as a bar. So you can't have 20, 100 kids running around, so we faced a lot of backlash from people in the community that didn't take time to understand why we were doing what we're doing. I had an aha moment right about this time of year in 2021 after I'd been, kind of laid out there on social media. It got to the point where I'd come home after a long day feeling good about things, and I'd make the mistake of looking at Facebook. And it just crushed me because I put everything I have into this. But I'm laying in bed. It's right before Labor Day. I'm like, we're going to pull this thing off. And at that time, that festival had changed 2 or 3 times. Distilleries were in, and then they withdrew because of COVID. They were back in if we did proof of vax, and then that was a very polarizing political issue. So we had a board meeting and back and forth. And then the day that Heaven Hill showed up with their trailer and equipment, I got them spotted and ready. The truck drove off. I walked upstairs. I looked back out the window, and there goes the truck and trailer. And they were going on strike that night at midnight.
Oh, that's right.
And the word came out, it's like, we don't want to distract the Bourbon Festival. We don't want to be that attractor. So it's like when we finally got that event off, it was just brutal. I had a really hard time re-engaging to plan for the next year because we put 18 months of blood, sweat, and tears and multiple changes. But my aha moment that I was referencing, I was laying there, like, why is everybody so angry about this? This is a good thing. And at that time, we priced tickets at $10. We were the same price as the county fair, on purpose. Like, people are okay to pay $10 at the gate. And I'm going back to my youth with carload days, right? How many kids can you pack in a car and everybody gets in for $20? And so I was trying to have fun with it, but we were just getting beat up. And my moment was, I think people were picturing the old festival, but with a perimeter and a charge. They weren't seeing what we were actually building. I have to pay $10 to bring my kid to the bounce house. I got to pay $10. And so once we got through that first year and people that were really interested in bourbon, they came and they saw what we're doing, and that kind of helped, But my biggest mistake would have been to listen to the local community, and I mean that, again, in all due respect. But the local community was its worst enemy when it came to the branding. And so we redid the board. We redid our bylaws. We made our board of distillery reps. Executive leadership of the distilleries, because that's what we're trying to be. And that's what steered it. So I just kept straight on the mission, and David Mandel and a couple of the other local leaders that really believed in what we were doing ran interference for us.
Yeah.
You know, so we had time to be successful, and they took all the heat. And I still run into people at the bar, you know.
They're like, come on.
No, well, and there was a funny one, though. It's like, and I'll make this very short. We're sitting there, I'm watching the TV at Scout and Scholar by myself, just having a beer, watching the game, and the bartender goes, "Hey, Randy, how's the Bourbon Festival planning coming along?" And I could just, and I felt the look. And the guy right next to me, I won't say who he was, but he's like, "You're the guy." I said, "I'm the guy. What's going on?" And he was a local business owner, very successful. And I said, "Have you ever, in your 23 years in business here, ever changed your business model to reflect what your customers are telling you they want you to be?" He goes, "I do it all the time." I said, "That's what we're doing." He goes,
"Oh,
I got it.
Got it."
So now he defends us. I see him around town, and no matter what, he'll always go out of his way to say, "Hey, Randy,
nice,
I got you." And that slowly has become the case where the business community sees what this festival means to them. The people that really didn't like what we're doing probably really weren't our customer, and they weren't the people buying the bourbon.
Right.
So through that, it's just like every year, one by one, I win people over, and the only way to win them over is I give them a ticket and tell them to come. And if they don't like the festival, here's my business card. Tell me afterwards why you didn't like it. And they always call me and say, "Man, I'm eating crow. That was amazing." And I said, "If you keep bringing a friend, a new person every year, I'll keep giving you a pair of tickets because you're my ambassador."
Yeah.
But you can't win it overnight. It's just you have to win the community over slowly. So.
And that's what you're doing. And I missed 2021 because I actually did have COVID.
During the festival?
I mean, I didn't get to go. Do you remember? Because you guys went.
Yeah, right? I went.
Yeah, so I missed it, unfortunately, but you brought me a glass. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
But that was an important year because it was like, you know, and we had 6 inches of rain the day before we opened. I mean, we're talking about biblical. There was a river running through the middle of the festival. It was a mud pit, and we said, we can't leave this festival, these grounds like this. This is our main street. So a lot of different really smart and crazy people put together this concept to buy a big rug, outdoor carpet, and we rolled the entire like a red carpet down the middle of the festival, and it was the most popular destination. Ooh, isn't this posh?
That's awesome.
But it was those kind of things, and we got the festival off. No matter what was thrown at us, we got it off, and that was my only objective.
Yep.
I'm dragging this thing up the hill, mud and all, and we're going to get across the finish line. And then it's gotten a lot easier after that.
Oh, that's great. And this year's festival, is it September 13th through 15th?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that'll be great.
And we're up a week earlier than what we normally are. So we're kind of, there's another event in town that we try to avoid, not because we don't compete for fans.
Right.
And I'll just say Bourbon and Beyond is in Louisville, and it takes a lot of resources out when we're trying to do both events on the same weekend. The distilleries have to be both places, the fence companies, the forklifts and tents and all the things that go in. Mm-hmm. So when we're on our own separate weekend like we are this year, the hotels are happier, all the tourism people, they know we're bringing people in. So that's actually the reason why we moved up a week, just to make sure we're in our own spot.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's great. I'm excited about that because people are like, "Are you going to Bourbon and Beyond?" I'm like, "Man, there's no way," because my focus is the Bourbon Festival. I mean, that's where I want to be.
Cheers.
But you spend 4 or 5 hours down there, and you're outside. It gets warm, and you're drinking a little bit of bourbon. And the last thing I want to do then is have my wife, my designated driver, drive me, an hour, 45 minutes north, and then spend 3 or 4 more hours outside at a rock concert or something,
And I really wanted to.
Yeah, but I'm too old for that, man.
The Doobie Brothers were headlining on Sunday night.
Oh, man.
On the same weekend, and I'm friends with their tour manager.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, come on up. We got all access backstage and all this stuff." I'm like, "For the Doobies? Of course." Well, then Sunday night comes, and I'm just wiped.
Yeah.
So I never made that. So I'm a music festival guy. I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
It's never about us wishing anyone else ill will. It's just we like being in our own little clean space. And
I think it's great. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to see how it works. And that was another thing, because there are after parties. People do things in the evenings, and a lot of the people that were there to go to the festival, they're like, "Man, do I go to this after party, or I'm supposed to go up to Bourbon and Beyond? What am I going to do?" So I'm happy to see that the weekends are split. But now going back to this year's festival, you have what, 60? You said 63 now, different distilleries. Man, that's a lot.
Right. It is. And it's a lot for that little space. And I've always said that is the most difficult festival grounds I've ever set up on.
Sure.
There's no even ground. It's mostly grass. But when it's set up and it's running, I will say it's one of the most beautiful venues. And our posters and things this year, our T-shirts, we incorporated the tents into the graphic and the gas lights and the mature trees, because it is a park setting that is arguably one of the most beautiful venues when it's all set up and running. So,
man, I'll tell you, when it's 90 degrees outside and you get under one of those big trees, it's like, that's right. Oh yeah, man. I mean, it makes a world of difference, right?
Those big oaks, they do more than just make good whiskey.
But I like the way you said it. And will it be set up the same? Because you get the main entrance. Of course, there's a media entrance on the other side, but you have the main entrance, which is really cool. You walk through, almost like walking through the Rick House, right? And then the crafts people were on the right side, and then like legacy, more type of distilleries on the left side. Is that kind of the same setup, or?
Yeah, and that's kind of a nod to my old beer festival days. I mean, we would see people, we didn't do it. We had a rope and a air horn. That's how we let people in for the beer festivals, and they would run. But I would see people that would go past the big name breweries, and they would go deep into the craft beer area. And we even had a homebrew island. So, and some of the best beers that were being cranked out were these guys that were doing homebrew stuff. And the people that bought tickets knew they're going to get back to Dogfish, or they're going to get back to Sam Adams and things, but they wanted to go down and discover something. So I kind of rolled the dice with the Bourbon Festival. That first year that we had crafts, we had 17 of them. So when they came in, we promoted that as Craft Distillers Row, and I stood at that main gate and watched them, and most of them split and went down into the craft area because they wanted to find a new something. They knew the other ones were there, Makers and Four Roses and Beam, but it was kind of, and I tested it, and it works.
Well, I think it's a great setup, and we enjoy it because we'll go in. But I will admit the first place I usually try to hit now is Barrel Craft Spirits, if they're there with their slushy machine.
They will be back.
The problem is I usually hit that near the end of the day when I shouldn't be hitting the slushy machine.
And there'll be more than one slushy machine on the grounds.
You heard it here first, right?
I don't know if I don't think I'm supposed to say who.
Don't say who, but that's all right.
But we really have been pushing this year, being the third year of this new format. We're really encouraging distilleries to up their game, to have a better presentation, make the space their own, do things that hold on to the consumer longer. And so this year we're doing a People's Choice Award. So the people that attend can vote on their favorite craft or small batch or the single barrel. So there'll be 3 different levels of competition. So you tell a distillery there's a competition. The barrel relay. If we learned anything on that, they go all in. So
well, that's great to hear, man. That'll be a lot of fun. And then this year also, you guys have, is it like 18 food trucks or something like that, or you got a 15, I think.
Okay. But if anyone had been to the 2021 or 2022, food trucks are challenging in a small town. We'd have trucks committed from surrounding areas, and in that first year, one of the crews got COVID and couldn't make it. The transmission went out on the truck on the drive down. So that was like, I have 4,000 people coming in 2 food trucks to feed them, and it was just a nightmare. So last year we got it dialed in. We partner with the Louisville Food Truck Association. Right. They jury the who they're going to bring, and it's based on quality and how fast they can crank it out. Some of these food trucks are good at smaller events, but they can't do the volume. And so we give them the space. They curate it and put their best operators in there, and so that checks the boxes. And it's the one piece of the festival that we've made a decision to leave on the outside of the ticketed. So you don't need a ticket to enjoy the food truck. So there are a lot of people that come into town that either don't know the Bourbon Festival's going on, and they get hit with a hour-long wait in the Mammies, or so it's like if they know that they can come up and have 15 food trucks and enjoy a nice walk. And this year we're closing 5th Street, so that main street is closed.
Okay.
So the food trucks will be out there across from the perimeter, the main front of the festival. And we're adding dining tents, so every 3 or 4 food trucks there'll be a dining tent, so you can sit out there and enjoy your meal, and then come and go out of the festival all day long. So,
that'll be great, man.
I'm excited because people don't realize water, porta potties, and food. That's the 3 things that are always. If I could get those things dialed in, the rest of it's easy.
Everybody needs those.
That's
always
right.
Going to need those, especially in Kentucky, man, because you just never know with the weather, right? 2021.
Well, if you believe Farmer's Almanac, it's going to be a little cooler this year. And I normally, I try to live by Farmer's Almanac, but I don't look at it usually too early because it's like I got to be there anyway. So but we always have to have plan A and B and C ready to go.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, last year actually was pretty nice. The year before it was pretty warm.
Yeah.
2022 was pretty hot. 23 actually, it was really nice, especially
nice breeze.
You get under those big trees again, man. It's just like this is actually kind of fun. I mean,
we had a little rain on Sunday afternoon, which was kind of a surprise, but all it did was kind of push people back into the distillery, so they kind of built in clientele.
No doubt.
I take any weather that we can get as long as it's not just beastly hot or just torrential downpours.
Yeah.
Nothing ruins the setup and the teardown like mud and rain.
I can't imagine.
And it certainly impacts people's enjoyment of the event. So I do a little sun dance every year.
Well, guys, let's jump back over to this whiskey and talk about what you get palate and finish. Matt, what do you get on this Hemingway whiskey company, the rye, the 6-year, 4-year blend?
Spicy. Yeah. It's really spicy, really warm right up front. I get like a hot spiced honey, peppercorn note. I think some of that rum influence on the sherry comes through. It's almost like a little bit of sugar cane, and like that Oloroso kind of lends to like touch of, I almost think of like orange fruit or orange zest, or like a
Gotcha.
kind of like a apricot type notes as well. But like good minty, warm, long finish, almost like hot toddy tea kind of notes on it as well, with those herbal ryes playing effect on it. This is lovely. It really is.
Makes you want to get a cold so you can have a hot toddy.
For real, man. But the first thing I know, when I took the first sip, when we're still talking about the nose, it was like, I got that tea flavor to it, you know? And then you mentioned, I think initially, Matt, on the nose, you said something about maybe even lemongrass. That kind of started to come through as well for me. But then on the palate, that rum started coming through. Almost, to me, the Oloroso, it's almost like a rum raisin or something like that. You know, there's a sweetness that kind of comes across as a raisin with that little bit of rum thrown in. It maybe even like a brown sugar coated, you know, rum raisin or something like that. So very sweet, but also very spicy. And that's why I love, we talked about the other release that Hemingway has, which is their let's see what it is. It's the rye that's been in an actual rum cask.
Right.
And man, it's one of my, I'm just telling you, hands down, one of my favorite, rum and rye cask. It's awesome. This is great, man.
I think Forrest brought some of that along to sample. The thing I like about this one, and it's like the roller coaster, it's a big start and then it smooths out and settles down real quick. I don't know if that's that rum influence that just, it comes off hot and big bodied, and then it's still big bodied, but it just kind of settles down and finishes.
110 proof too. So we're talking a pretty higher proof point there. So that you definitely get that, but it's not a punch in the face, but that rye spice does give you a nice little kick, right?
Yeah.
when I was a kid, there was the craze was this, I think it was called Amish friendship bread or cake or something. It was a yeast thing. You started this little host, and then you split it off, and the way my grandmother would make it was with a lot of baking spice and like, but it had like that crusted, caramelized like brown sugar coating on it that no one else, and that I definitely, when you said that, it's like brought back to the Amish friendship bread when I was like 10 years old.
Don't you love those memories? I mean, you tell people that drinking whiskey reminds you of your childhood, and they're like, wait, what?
But isn't that it? You walk by and the grandma's pie in the window, and you smell the baking spice or whatever, and the cinnamon.
Matt's favorite.
Yeah.
That 6-year-old Heaven Hill bottled in bond, grandma's peanut butter pie. That's what it reminds me of.
I picked it up, and I told you earlier, I'm not an expert at this stuff, and I get excited. So the first time I actually like volunteered, like I got something. It was at Woodford. Chris Morris was leading the pick, and it was a Woodford, and I got this green, almost like Granny Smith apple, but that was like biting an apple off the tree at the farm. Right. And he's like, "You're right." I'm like, I felt like I should have had like an A or a star or something. But I got so excited. Right? I got so excited. I'm like, I actually picked up something before everybody else.
I feel the same way every show with Matt. When I get something, when Matt agrees with me on a note, I'm like, yes.
Hey, all you got to do is throw it to yourself right away, and then you'll be the first.
That's never going to happen.
Influence
Matt.
your own.
I have to say it with confidence. Like Matt says, if you say it with confidence, everybody else will believe you.
It's like getting backstage at a concert. If you act like you know where you're going, they usually leave you alone.
That's exactly right. Yeah. All right, guys, we're at the end of round 2 here. Let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more with Randy Prossi with the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
Welcome to Old Dominick Distillery, a family-owned craft distillery nestled in the heart of downtown Memphis. Founded by descendants of Domenico Canali, a pioneering Sicilian immigrant who made Memphis his home in the late 1800s, Old Dominick is steeped in history and tradition. Old Dominick prides itself on offering a diverse selection of whiskeys to satisfy every taste. Whether you're a seasoned connoisseur or a curious newcomer, you'll find something to love, including an 85 proof Tennessee whiskey, bonded Tennessee whiskey, a single barrel Tennessee whiskey, a 90.1 proof bourbon, and coming this fall, a cask strength bourbon. Each bottle of Old Dominick whiskey is crafted with care, featuring unique mash bills that offer a variety of high and low proofs. This dedication to quality ensures there's a perfect pour for every whiskey enthusiast. Old Dominick whiskeys are proudly distributed in several states, including Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia, Arkansas, Illinois, and Mississippi. Can't find us locally? No problem. You can conveniently purchase our products online and have them delivered straight to your doorstep. Ready to explore the world of Old Dominick? Visit our website at olddominick.com to learn more about our history, discover our products, and find a retailer near you.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life podcast, because I think we could probably do 4 or 5 sessions on this particular show with our guest. I am your host, Mark, and with me here live in the Bourbon Life studios is my good friend, my bourbon drinking buddy, my co-host, Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Mark, I'm doing great. And yourself? You doing well?
Living the bourbon life down here, man, for sure.
Oh, perfect. I'm so glad to hear it.
Having a great time, man, in the Bourbon Life studios here tonight with our guest, third-time guest, man, just having a great time. Love hanging out with this guy. Even if it's not doing a podcast, just always have a good time when we get to spend time together. So
I always seek you out, don't I?
Yeah, man.
We're at the Four Roses,
but we do, man.
I mean, at the Derby Museum, I look for you. I really enjoy hanging out. We had dinner and drinks a couple years ago.
We did
at doing a bourbon dinner tasting thing over here in Lexington, and you're kind of my tour guide on that. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I mean, I appreciate it. I just appreciate you. You know, the things you're doing with the Bourbon Festival. Of course, now we've ruined it. Everybody knows who our guest is. He already.
Yeah, that's right.
At this point, don't they know?
I don't know why I do that. I've done that for 230, and I do that every.
Well, let's not break tradition.
Every round,
Matt.
Randy. No, it's like, hey, Matt, tell everybody who we have with us. Like they don't already know, right?
Yeah, because nobody clicks on the episode and then fast forward
to the third
53
round.
minutes or something.
Yeah. Traditionally, it's a week. The third is the fun one.
Man.
Yeah.
And that might be true.
It usually is.
It's worked, but maybe I need to switch that up after 240 episodes. But Randy, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, and thanks for letting me sleep on your couch tonight.
Yeah, no problem, man. We got you covered. You got about, well, you can't see it, but there's scattered throughout the basement and in the back room probably about 600 plus bottles of bourbon that you can select from. So
it's impressive. I want to see that Elijah Craig collection before I leave.
Oh, well, it's all scattered.
Or is it in a warehouse?
It's all scattered, believe it or not.
It's a rick house, not a warehouse.
All the bottles are actually here, but they are like just randomly placed in places.
That old Heaven Hill on the corner there, I just finished that.
Did you?
My home this weekend.
Yeah, one of Matt's favorites.
One of my favorites,
man.
yeah.
What, $12.99 a bottle used to be? Something like that before they discontinued.
Rest in peace, good friend.
Yeah. Oh, I do have to say, though, we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn.
Yep.
Thank you, Liquor Barn, for your sponsor. I don't have to say it, but I choose to say it.
The live reads.
Yeah.
It's old time radio.
You know, I appreciate their sponsorship. I mean, they're a great partner, man.
Absolutely.
They've been with us now for a couple of years, and just love those guys, and especially because I do spend a little bit of time at Liquor Barn in Hamburg.
Well, and I've talked to them, early on when I was trying to find that retail partner, we talked to them and they were very interested. And our challenge is we're 7,000 people max. And this is a great story if you're talking about tourism, but 85% of the people that come to this festival are from outside of Kentucky. So we have a major draw, but it doesn't necessarily align with local retailers. So but no, I think most people love what we're doing.
Oh, there's no
we
question.
still drive people through the door, even if they're not officially a sponsor.
Well, we love Liquor Barn. We appreciate them and all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. So, all right, so let's talk about what we got poured up on this round. I've got the bottle here. This is a Jephthah Creed Distillery pick. This is a rye bourbon, 119.9 proof. So we have jumped the shark here. So we've moved up another 10 proof points almost here. So Matt, what do you pick up on this one, man?
It's got a really creamy vanilla kind of custard type nose that I pick up, almost like a little bit of banana pudding-ish, like custard type to it. A little bit of oak influence as well. Just like a really like thick, almost like bourbon type nose. To me,
I think it is a bourbon. I think it says rye bourbon. So I think
sort of rye content.
I think it means it's a higher rye bourbon, or it's not a wheated bourbon. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it means high rye or not, but it just says rye bourbon. So I'm assuming that means corn rye, malted barley. So
yeah, there's a good bit of like cornmeal or fresh like ground corn.
Yeah,
like milled corn, grain corn note to it as well. It's really like a really nice kind of good quintessential bourbon nose.
Now I will tell you, man, because honestly, I have not had a Jephthah Creed product in probably 4 or 5 years, just because the initial products that was coming out of there, they just weren't my thing. I mean, they really weren't.
The corn, the story, it was cool.
Yeah,
and you really wanted it to be better.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted the
whiskey.
Because
it's a great family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, great people.
Right.
Great. I mean, everything about it is great, but the initial whiskey coming out was not great.
But it's not true of others.
It is.
I mean,
it really is. But this is, I mean, and I was supposed to have been on this barrel pick, and unfortunately I was sick and missed it. But man, this nose, I want to say I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, Matt's naming off these notes and I'm picking them all out with him. And I agree. It's just got a wonderful bourbon nose to it. A lot of sweetness, a lot of vanilla. That spiciness from the rye comes through as well. Very well rounded. It is not that grain forward young nose that I've associated. And that's probably my fault for not going back and giving that another chance over the years. But I'm happy you brought this one. So I'm glad to experience that. What do you think about it?
And they fine-tune the craft, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was walking out there and I said one of my favorites was the hot pepper vodka that I make my Bloody Marys on.
Nice.
Here's the bourbon guy talking to the families, and I'm like, I really love your
vodka.
I love your hot pepper vodka.
Yeah.
But this is a really good pick. It was a fun experience, and you're right. That if you blindfolded me or put this in I would not know it was a rye.
Yeah.
The mint and the things that we had picked up on earlier, it's got the spice, but I don't associate it with a rye.
But I think it is a bourbon. I think it's
But
just
a high rye bourbon.
I think it's just a high rye bourbon.
Right.
Yeah.
But usually you can pick that out. But the
you can
banana
usually pick
bread
it-
and the
yeah.
like kind of the 1792 thing that you look for.
Yeah.
So I'm
It's
wondering-
and the custard is spot on. That was like it's just rich, warm, thick. Fill a
thinking
bathtub up with it.
Maybe the yeast strain, Matt. You talked about the banana, and usually that kind of stands out like Brown-Forman products. You get that consistent banana across the board with their stuff. So I'm wondering maybe it's a yeast, whatever particular yeast that they use that gives that little profile of banana. But yeah, I mean,
But it does not drink like a almost 120 proof.
we haven't gotten to that point yet. Right? Don't spoil.
I'm so sorry. I'm
spoil. Randy's
drinking
just,
when I shouldn't be.
Randy, he's throwing off the whole flow of the third round.
You
here,
give me a
Randy.
third
Well, you
chance
told
in
him
the
it's
chair.
it's his show.
It's my show.
Yeah,
That's right. He's like,
we
"Shut up,
gave him the
Mark."
wheel.
Do whatever I want
I'm
to do.
so
man.
sorry.
Let him
Forgive
thrive.
me. No.
I'm just
But-
kidding. No, but I'm impressed. I really am, and I'm glad you brought this because I haven't had anything from them since I bought a bottle back in probably 2019.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's just not my thing. And shame on me for not.
But this is the one you missed because you weren't feeling well, right?
Yeah, right. So shame on me though for not going back and giving them another chance because the things I see, the things I read about the family, and things I've heard, wonderful people,
Amazing people.
so good to know, man. I appreciate you bringing this and kind of opening my eyes to what they're doing now. So
Well, I mean, you remember back the TerraPure, Ozzy Tyler stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you judged everything based on that and never went,
I know.
You're missing out.
I agree.
So,
yep.
I love that. And I love that the festival can showcase them as a family and a business grows.
Yeah.
And they were the first or second craft distillery that signed up. And they're like,
really?
Randy, we have no money for this. It's not budgeted. And I said, look, money will not be the reason you can't participate. We need you and others like you in here. So we've kind of like showcased them and let them grow. And they're very humbling. A few of these craft distilleries have come to me on the side, almost in tears on one case, like participating in the Bourbon Festival opened us up to new consumers, new distributors, and quite frankly, one of them said, you saved our brand.
Wow.
And when you hear that,
awesome.
I mean, that's like a goosebump, like, holy cow. It's fun what we do, but it's people's livelihoods and businesses that we're putting out there. So I'm just happy that we can kind of be that little venue for them to showcase.
Little venue. Yeah, it's a big venue.
We're a very small venue, and we will always will be.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about that. We talked a little bit about how things were set up, and but let's talk about what people can expect that are coming to the festival, because there's a lot of things that are going on, educational things. There's the classes upstairs. Are you guys doing the classes again, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So you kind of talk about everything that you have going on this year.
Well, and we dialed in year one what worked and what people liked. So we want to keep doing that. So when I was at the Wisconsin State Fair, 150 plus years, people were like, oh, you're the new guy. You're not going to change anything, are you? And then it's like, what's new this year? And that's that balance of don't change it, but what's new.
Yeah.
So that is constantly in that mindset of we hit it with education, and Steve Coombs and Travis Hill, they do an amazing job, and it's a value added. You can come in to the Bourbon Festival and enjoy it here, or you can upgrade and a la carte it. And so that recipe works. So this year with the festival, we wanted to blow it out. We knew it would be a 5-year transition from the former to what we thought was going to be the model. So this year you're going to see a double-decker, first ever, and literally the tent company that we're working with, it's one. There's one in the U.S.
Yeah,
it came from Germany. I mean, it's amazing. It's a statement piece.
Wait, it's not called the Hindenburg.
No.
Okay.
Oh, the humanity.
All right. We're good then. Okay.
So we wanted to elevate the VIP experience. First year was upstairs and window air conditioners, one slow elevator, a toilet that was out of commission half the time. Very hard to get to. So we've upgraded now to where the entire city parking lot is VIP.
Oh, okay.
So it's air conditioned. It's floored with carpeting. So when you're in this experience, you're not looking down at the parking stripes anymore. It's
nice.
Like it's legit. A big porch, glass windows, not clear vinyl. I mean, it's
wow.
It's big, but it's those little things that we're trying to do to make sure that the VIPs know we're trying to elevate their experience. The main festival, we've asked the distilleries to really own their space and make it their own and showcase. So this year, everybody that comes to the festival will be able to do a People's Choice Award for their favorite craft, favorite small batch, which is your middle level Wilderness Trail, Wild Turkey, barrel that you mentioned,
right.
Rabbit Hole. And then you get into the single barrels, which are your big guys. Beam, Four Roses, Maker's Mark, Angel's Envy stepped up this year. So in Heaven Hill, Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Yeah.
So we want them to invest in the experience, not just on the presentation of the product, but how are you engaging our customers? So I feel, and you've been to the festival, geographic, we can't grow any longer. So we're landlocked. So now we cut back, and plateau and build this thing to be. If you come to the Bourbon Festival and 60 or 62 distilleries aren't enough, as they continue to up their game, then maybe we're not for you. But we have over 280 different SKUs that will be sampled.
Plenty of samples there for everybody, right?
Half-ounce pours. And
so only 140 ounces available.
Yeah. But I mean, we want craft, we want that discovery, but we also want the big guys to flex their muscles. And last year, there were a number of the major distilleries that the bottle sales at the Bourbon Festival, 3 days at this temporary city, they outsold their bricks and mortar gift shops.
Wow.
With sold out back-to-back tours that always end conveniently in the gift shop.
In the gift shop,
right.
So
exit through the gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
For years, they invested in this festival without much chance for upside.
Yeah.
And so now that they can, and the net winner is the consumer.
Sure.
You can buy bottles from the distilleries. We have lockers available, so you can like put them and take them home with you. And you know, people come with empty suitcases to fill. You know, and the cool thing about it, I mean, people will do the Bourbon Trail and end with the festival, or they come in for the festival and hang on till Monday, Tuesday, and do the Bourbon Trail. Yeah. So, from an impact standpoint, they might already be coming to Kentucky, but they're coming during that time because of the festival kind of being there as that magnet. So I'm very mindful of the economic impact of this thing.
No doubt. And, you know, you can also get cool stuff too. Like we got some cool stickers, right? And you got the cool patch. I love this. Official Bourbon Inspector. So that's going to be a hat. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you can buy it a patch if you're a Harley rider and you like to put a patch on your vest.
Oh, nice.
But I was sitting in New Orleans this last year, and there was a bar that had the entire back bar was full of law enforcement and fire departments, and my daughter's in the Navy, so I've got a lot of mission patches and challenge coins and all those things. I'm like, I need a patch. I need to be able to.
I think that's awesome. And Kentucky, because you got the star, you know, but then you got the state of Kentucky right in the center of that, man.
And I actually went to the Bardstown Police, the Nelson County Sheriff, and I went to the state police to make sure that I wasn't getting too close to their patches.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, I'm a professional.
You're gonna be in trouble for that, right? But you got something else too, right? You want to talk about that?
Well, and you know, the Bourbon Life. That's something that I've been really in tune with. Is that there is a lifestyle. If you are into bourbon, you also appreciate other things.
Sure.
A fine cigar, or you're into craft beer, or you enjoy wine. But I feel like you also enjoy vintage cars. So this year, in the VIP area, we have partnered with the Cincinnati Concourse. So there's going to be a vintage Jaguar in there that you can like look at. We did a partnership. But one of the things that I was really excited about is getting into the lifestyle. Everyone needs a fine writing instrument. So we did the first ever partnership with a brand called Retro 51. They do very high-end writing instruments, and we partner with Canton Cooperage. So these are oak from Canton Cooperage out in Lebanon, and they donated the blanks to make these pens.
Nice.
We've got a little America on the top. This is the 60th anniversary of bourbon being America's native spirit.
Oh, that's right.
So there are VIPs that will get this packaging. We have an official timepiece.
Wow.
So, but again, the Bourbon Life, the Bourbon Lifestyle. So we're really trying to reach out. Jacob Bromwell, the Flask Company, has been with us for 4 years. When I started here, I'm like, okay, what does one need to truly appreciate the bourbon lifestyle? So you got glassware, Glencairn.
Yep.
The flask, and so it's just kind of Clayton and Kroom now is involved with us as a supporter. So it's how do you enjoy your bourbon? We get into cigars, we get into every kind of aspect of the whole. So the Bourbon Life and the Bourbon Lifestyle is something that we're really working on. So
no, I think that's great. I mean, I think that's so cool because a lot of people just focus on the bourbon and they don't think about all these other things that go into it. You know, like ice makers or ice molds or glassware, stuff like that.
Kentucky Straight Ice.
Yeah,
and they've been donating the quality, the premium ice for all of our bars, and they get it. And the funny thing is, I've been collecting this brand Retro 51 for years, and so someone who knows me very well is like, he just needed a pen, didn't he? So he went and got a sponsorship.
Man.
And I needed a watch. So
yeah.
But when I was at Churchill Downs, Longines was the official. Oh, right. So I got a Longines watch for doing stuff. So here I'm like, I need a watch. I need a sponsorship. But these guys are very excited about being here. And Jacob Bromwell last year said that we only do one festival a year, one sponsorship, and the familiarity with their brand when people would come up was off the charts, and we had no idea. So
very cool.
Anyway, it's kind of a fun little side kind of a bar for me to go out and do this kind of stuff. But
nice.
Hopefully it enhances people's enjoyment of the event and kind of clarifies that this is a quality event, that we want quality consumers and we've got quality distilleries and I think media partners.
It elevates it, right? I mean, that's the whole goal, is to elevate it into an experience, and that's what people are looking for, right? So it's not just, hey, let's get together and drink bourbon. Let's get together, have an experience, a lifestyle experience, and that's what you're offering, which is really cool. So it's
very social.
Sure.
During COVID, we were flying to New Orleans for their bourbon festival. we're at the airport, and Tracy Napolitano said, "Hey, dude, sorry, the mayor pulled our permit. There's no festival." But there's a lot of people already in New Orleans, and distilleries were there, so we went anyway. And I sat and talked to this young lady at one of the evening events, and I said, "Look, I may never see you again, but right now, bourbon friends. I mean, this is the social piece of it." So I'm very mindful of that there are people that come to this festival that only see each other at this festival. So it's kind of a cool reunion.
Yeah, and I met several people last year, people from Florida, just, don't even drink bourbon, but they're like, they heard of the festival and they wanted to come up. And I was like, we just started talking to them, and it was great, man, just to meet these different people that are there to experience what bourbon has to offer. And you just build that sense of community, like you said. All right, guys, let's jump back over to this whiskey, this Jeff the Creed. I'm assuming high rye bourbon. It's a bourbon, but I'm assuming high rye based on this labeling. But a 119.9 proof. Matt, what do you get? I'm coming to you, man. What do you get on the palate and the finish?
It's warm on the palate. I think it tastes the step up. Does it taste like 120 proof? No, I think it drinks a little bit more approachable and softer than the proof would suggest. But it does feel like a step up from the 110, the Hemingway that we had in the second round.
Yeah.
The palate, to me, I pick up a lot of the corn and barley notes with this one. So there's like that corn, like a cornbread or a cornmeal, almost like a corn cake type note to it. And then I get a lot of like honey graham cracker on the palate. It's like the Golden Graham cereal, kind of like a sugary.
Teddy Graham.
It's going to be a golden day.
But something kind of like similar aromas to that. Then a little bit of like warm pepper, honey, tea, kind of like a nice like herbal tea coming down the finish on it. Just like good and warm, nice hug.
And I like the fact that it's got some complexity to it, more so than what my previous experience with Jeff the Creed had been. I mean, it really is. I mean, so I'm really happy you brought this, Randy, because it's kind of opened my eyes to what they're doing now versus what I thought what they were putting out, which I just wasn't a big fan of. And again, it's not to say that it was bad. It just wasn't in my wheelhouse, and it wasn't to my palate. But this definitely is. I really like it. So
good. And I'm picking up like dark, like cherries, or there's something in there, or candied cherries almost, where they're sweet, but it's a deep.
Yeah. Yeah, the palate, I get a lot of sugary sweetness on there too. And Matt, that corn comes through. It's almost like
on the finish.
Yeah, to me, it's like those frosted flakes, like the corn and the sugar mixed together. And that kind of comes through to me, but that spiciness as well from that rye kicks in. Yeah. It actually has a nice, the palate, it finishes for a while, which I like, man. So very nice.
There have been so many distilleries that that have surprised me based on my first experience, and this is one of them, like you said. But I mean, there's probably at least 4 or 5 that we've done barrel picks that I'm like, dang, that was
it's nice, right?
Good, yeah. Not that I had low expectations,
no,
just wow, they really got it dialed in.
I get that. So, Randy, ticket-wise, I mean, you guys are basically sold out at this point, right? So, people need to jump in next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you bought tickets, they're coming. And we always tell people to sign up for the Bourbon Insider. We don't do a bunch of spam. It's about dates and when tickets are on sale. And this year, tickets went on sale to the public April 17th, and we sold out of almost everything on April 16th as far as like VIPs and all the premium things. So if you get in there, you get that day jump. And, I mean, I'm just very happy with the number of people we have. We've done peak because we have RFID wristbands now, so we know when people come in, when they leave, how long they're here. We know peak time, like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We still have only about 3,000 people on site. So if we sell 7,000 tickets, only half of them are actually there. They're out doing distillery tours, and we love that. They can come and go. So our objective is to make it a really great experience without standing in line all day.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. And so if you choose to stand in line, I purposely last year got in line with Heaven Hill.
Yes.
With people, just blended in. No one knew who I was. I'm just standing there. I'm lit. Nobody is complaining about the heat. It's like, I can't wait to see what they're selling. I mean, so I kind of blend in to see what's going on because I don't want people complaining that they're standing in line all day to get to their product. And so we're very boutique, and I love that, but not snobby.
Yeah.
We talked about being approachable, not intimidating, but also still trying to make sure we have programming for you too. You can come in and not say, okay, this is 101 stuff. There's nothing here for me. But we don't want to scare people away. There's a lot of people that'll email me like, my husband is just getting into it. I'm not really into it, but is it something for us? I'm like, absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, plus you will come in and your neighbors, your new friends that you haven't, they will warm up to you and they will help you with your journey and discovery. And I love that. It's very sociable. So,
yeah. And Randy, I'm not going to curse you guys, but I've been there 2 years. Matt's been there 3 years. I have never seen anybody get drunk and get in a fight at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So, I mean, and you think about festivals. Well, yeah, right. So, but you think about festivals, you think about drinking, people drinking, having samples and stuff, and you think, oh, somebody's going to get out of control. But they don't. I mean, it's a very laid back, very fun, very friendly environment, and everybody just gets along, and it's a great time.
And thank you for sharing that. So when I go in front of the mayor and the city council, the chief and assistant chief of police show up to speak on our behalf, that they've had zero arrests again.
That's awesome.
It's great. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. We go to the ABC in Frankfurt, and Steve Amato is our attorney. He wrote all the legislation, and they said, you are absolutely the gold standard for an alcohol spirit festival in Kentucky.
Wow.
If someone comes to us wanting to know how to run a festival, we send them to you. Operations manuals. So I take that very seriously, and it is something I'm proud of. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, there are people, obviously, that have a good time.
Well, sure.
But I see groups. In fact, I have a group from college that come down, 10 of them, and they get an Airbnb, and they draw the straw for who's going to be DD. But that's how they enjoy the festival, and that's the way you should do it.
I agree.
They get to enjoy all the spirits. They got a safe ride home. We're working more and more with downtown Louisville hotels, with shuttles, shuttles going back and forth, because we want people to get home.
Yeah.
And Uber and Lyft just don't happen in Bardstown. They've tried to crack it. So it is a challenge to be in the small town of 13,000 people and throw an event for the world to come to without the proper infrastructure and everything. But we want and pray that people get home safe and enjoy it. And we're on year 4. So I'm always cognizant of the fact that there were people from year 1, year 2. I don't want them to get bored and say, okay, we've been there, done that. So we want to make sure that people come in for the first time are blown away, but yet there's enough there for people to come back. So we have friends that come back every year, and that we want to make sure that keeps happening. So,
well, we'll be there this year for sure.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So, Randy, I always ask you this. I always ask all of our guests, and so I'm going to ask you again. What's been your favorite part of this journey for you so far?
Wow. I mean, this is the kind of thing that when I think about, I get teary-eyed.
Sure.
I mean, we talked about where I started with this thing and where we are and the rough journey in between. But I think it's always the faces on the people that are hanging out. And when the distilleries come to me and say, Randy, I think our contract is due for renewal. That is rewarding. So
I wish my sponsors would do that.
Yeah. I mean, people out there, if you've ever been involved with any kind of an event with sponsorship, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You got to do the dog and pony show and almost like begging for dollars. But these guys come in and remind us. So, I mean, it's rewarding to see that the industry is responding to my pledge of always being about whiskey and the people who make it. And I've never varied from that. But also seeing the people from all over the country and the world coming back.
Yeah.
You can get them one time, but to get them the repeat is something special. And that's a testament to the team, to you. I mean, thank you. This is the only in-studio that I've done. Usually I'm sitting in my basement.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man.
No, I mean, you've meant very much to me and your audience, and so thank you. It's very humbling. I mean, I could sit here and I start getting, people always, the last day of every festival that I've ever done, I always go on stage and thank sponsors and volunteers, and I always end up blubbering because I put everything I have out there.
Yeah.
And I see people that are like joining me on this journey and fighting. It's been ugly. There's been a lot of times that is really tough to align with me because I know I'm doing the right thing, but people are staying with me because they know it's the right mission, even though it's gotten ugly out there. And so, I mean, I could do a whole hour just on how rewarding this is. And, board members that see how successful, they're like, you're not getting bored, are you? You're not. I'm like, this is the last job.
You're not leaving, are you?
Yeah, I mean, literally, but this is the last job that I'll have because it's not a job. I am so in line with the, and I'll say Chris Morris, Brown-Forman. When I started here, Brown-Forman was a big sponsor at Derby. I'm like, I know them. And they were the first ones to send me the letter saying they weren't going to be involved. So I made that my mission, and I've told Chris that. And they're not only back this year as Brown-Forman with Old Foe and Woodford in a tent, they each have their own development.
Nice.
And Chris is back on our board.
Oh, great.
So as far as a testimonial to what we've done, to have Chris Morris back on our board is amazing. So, and that's happening over and over and over again. So anyway.
No, that's cool because
we're not there yet, but we're getting.
And I saw Chris there last year. Chris was on site, and that's one of the cool to me. Even I've been doing this for 4.5 years, but man, just to walk in and there's Connor O'Driscoll. I was like, hey, what's up, Connor? And you see Chris, Morrison is like, hey, Chris, what's going on? I mean, to see these guys on site hanging out, and
they have a ball.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite photo that I've taken in 4 years was Chris and Fred. And they were over here on one side of the festival, and they were due with Steve Coombs on the main stage, and they both been drinking and having a good time. And I wrangled them. I'm like, you guys, and I got a picture, and Fred's like laughing and walking, and Chris is like pointing, like, we got to go that way. And it's absolutely my favorite photo of two legends.
Oh, yeah.
And they're having fun. They're competitors, but they're not. And that really boils down what we're doing. It's a very collaborative industry, and the people that compete for that little inch on the shelf, that's marketing.
Right.
These guys love each other, and they love drinking their whiskeys, and I just love having them all together. So
Randy, can you give us a glimpse of the future? Is there anything, looking forward? Because you already said you're kind of looking 2025 already.
Right.
Anything coming up you want to share or that you can share? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about now quality. It's like we've hit that growth. We've shown everyone that we can get these distilleries to sign on as investors multiple year. Now it's what do we do with them? How do we elevate it to where not only does the consumer get an amazing world-class experience they can't get anywhere else, but how can I don't want a distillery to ever say, I think we're going to have to move on and do something else.
Right.
So we keep it fresh and as long as they're selling bottles and making bank. But no, so I mean, there are 2 or 3 distilleries that have already come to me this year that said, we want that double-decker. So I'm out there, I'm searching the world right now to try to find a couple more of these double-deckers to where the ground level is the traditional sampling that you get, but the upstairs is an elevated invite-only experience or barrel picks. We might be doing barrel picks on some of these. Oh. So if you like what you see this year, we can't go out. We got to keep going vertical.
You got to build condos, right?
Yeah,
tent condos.
Yeah. But I mean, these distilleries are taking money that maybe was committed somewhere else, and they're investing it with us, and that's the best win for everyone. Is when these distilleries finally get dialed in and say we're going all in on this thing. So I mean, we'll always keep the VIP experience amazing and small, so it's exclusive. We'll always make tickets available and affordable. I mean, if you look at the old festival, it was free, and then you look at now $180. That's a big jump in 4 years. But if you break it down 3 days, $60 a day for sampling included. We don't say all you can. It's not a buffet.
Sure.
But if you do the math, if you're really into it, I mean, I can go sit in any bar in Louisville or Lexington or Bardstown and have a couple of neat pours and be over $60
easy
on that.
Easy.
So from a math perspective, people say you're leaving money on the table. I'm like, it's not about money. It's about how do we continue to finance what we're doing and have that safety net, that reserve, so if something, God forbid, happens, we can survive, because we were that close.
Yeah.
I mean, literally that close. One board member voting away from folding this thing. So
that's crazy.
Thank you to that one board member.
Yeah, right.
So anyway.
So where can people get more information about the festival?
Well, kybourbonfestival.com is our new website, and there's a good amount of information, but follow us on social, Instagram,
Yep.
Twitter, X, and Facebook.
Awesome.
At KY Bourbon Fest. or certainly tune in here because I'm hoping I'll be back next year.
Yeah, of course you will be, man. No question about it.
The fourth visit with
That's
the
right.
jacket.
We'll get you a jacket. We'll get you something even beyond a jacket. We'll get you like a trident with a something special, golden trident.
So one of our distilleries said, Randy, you need to come in like with a lighter.
Oh.
You know, and I said, well, find me 6 people to carry it, and I'll come in and like throw the. No, that's not me.
Man.
If anyone knows me, that's not me.
Not
I'm
you.
combat boots and camo shorts, and I'm out there stomping around.
So, Randy, any final thoughts before we get out of here tonight?
Just thank you to you and everyone that's watching, listening. I mean, it's very humbling because I can tell you that 5 years ago. The line was not long for people that wanted to come and talk to the Bourbon Festival and understand what we're doing and why we're doing and giving me this kind of a forum. So thank you. And you're very high up in my world. So
well, I appreciate
as
that.
a friend and as a business associate.
Well, thank you very much for that, Randy. Really appreciate that. Matt, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here tonight?
Randy, I think it really speaks volume to the buy-in that you've received from distilleries that are trusting you to bring this great product to all of the consumers out there and to everybody that attends the festival. And they're trusting you to put on such a good festival that now it's at the point where you're kind of turning it back to them and saying, all right, let's see what you can do now. Make your show that much more spectacular for all of us.
That's well said.
Yeah, it is.
I've created the forum.
You have,
now,
and it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for that because I will repeat that.
No, it's
But you're really right.
Yeah, it really is.
I didn't even think about
We've
that.
done that groundwork and built it. Now
you have.
Yeah.
And now you've turned it back to them.
Thank you, Matt.
Very well said, Matt.
Yeah. This whole thing is just very humbling.
I can't even say anything now. Thanks, Matt.
What he said.
Well, yeah. Again,
but thanks, Matt.
Like Matt's tasting notes, just like whatever Matt said. Yeah, I concur. But I do agree. And Randy, I mean, I think the world of you, man. So
likewise,
appreciate you coming over here and spending the time with us this evening in person. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Happy to finally get to do that with you. Kudos to you and the team. I mean, I know you guys work your asses off, especially this time of year right now with everything getting so close. Thank you for taking the time to come over here and hang out with us.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Let me change that. It's the team and me.
Okay.
It really is. I mean,
yeah.
If I look back and look at the things that are happening, I was doing that 5 years ago. Like pulled port sliders. And I'm not doing catering anymore and that kind of stuff. But thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. But thanks for joining us. Though we appreciate you coming and bringing some great things to drink.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing this. I'm telling you, man, changed my mind right there. I mean, I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
And well deserved. So I'm happy to have that for sure. And the other pours that you brought, we really appreciate that. So we are the Bourbon Life Podcast. Of course, we're presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support, the support of all of our sponsors. We couldn't bring you this show every week with our great guests like Randy without all their support. So thank you to all of them. Thank you to our listeners. Like Matt always says, whatever time of the day it is, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you get your Bourbon Life fix. Thank you for taking the time to listen or watch. We really appreciate that. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life, or join our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. We would love to have you in there as well. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. We'd really appreciate that. Also, don't forget to check out The Whiskey Trip. That comes out every Tuesday under our umbrella. Big Tex, as Matt likes to call him, or Big Chief, doing that show every Tuesday. He's got some really good stuff, really great guests on his show as well. So be sure to check him out on Instagram, Facebook, and give his show a listen on Tuesday. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their exclusive Behind the Beam tour and monthly Claremont Supper Club events, which will feature a top secret release at the September event. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.